What is up, tadpoles, and welcome to another video. Today we're talking about Series 10 and how it has affected the Pokemon community as a whole. Now, what's cool about Series 10 is that we have restricted Pokemon again, but there's no Dynamax. Joining me today is Verte. I'm so tired.
Hello.
It's Verte. He was the Grookey champion from the APDL server. If you guys haven't checked them out, you should. Really cool server. They do a lot of cool stuff, mostly VGC content, but yeah. Alright, so we're gonna talk about the buffs and nerfs that a lot of the restricteds have gotten, and the buffs and nerfs that regular Pokemon have gotten. So obviously Zacian, Zamazenta, and Eternatus are not really affected because they couldn't Dynamax either, so, and their moves doubled in power when attacking Dynamax targets, but that doesn't really matter, so whatever. They're not really affected. Zacian's still gonna be good, Zamazenta's still gonna be bad, Eternatus is still gonna be eh. I don't know.
Pretty much. Yeah.
They get a little bit better because a lot of bulk, because since Dynamax has doubled your HP, their other moves will be doing more damage, I guess. It's basically the only difference. Alright, so let's start with the nerfs, because there are a lot of mons that got nerfed. First of all, let's talk about items for a sec. Weakness policy got nerfed like heck, because since your HP is doubled, then you can use weakness policy way more effectively, but now you can't, so you're just wasting your HP by hitting yourself with the super effective move. Or letting your opponent hit you with a super effective move.
You're still going to be able to do the same amount of damage output as you normally would with a weakness policy, but you're going to have significantly less bulk, so your boosted mon is going to stick around for significantly less time, and you're not going to have access to max moves boosting you either.
Right, so these first four mons are mons that want to abuse the boosts from Max Steel Spike or Max Quake, that being defense and Spadef boosts. So obviously you can't do that anymore, and therefore these mons have been nerfed. So Dialga, Solgaleo, Calyrex Ice, Zygarde, I guess Groudon to an extent, Palkia also a little bit, but yeah, a lot of these mons want to run weakness policy and can't really do it as effectively as they could in Series 8.
Yeah, especially for Zygarde specifically, whose main gimmick is HP gaining from when he turns into 100% form.
Yeah, you basically
with Dynamax doubling your HP, it's gonna significantly reduce the effectiveness of his gimmick. So
yeah, I mean you could still do it with Coil, but I don't know. Intimidate is probably still gonna be prevalent, so not as good. Yeah, same thing with Calyrex Ice. You could still run Trick Room. You could still run I can't even type, oh my god. Trick Room. You can still run Glacial Lance. It's not a bad Pokemon per se, but having that Dynamax option was always really nice with high horsepower. And
Glacial Lance is probably going to be less effective though, for the reason that we'll cover later.
Yeah. And the fact that a lot of mons have spread moves, so therefore Wide Guard is probably going to be increased in usage. Yeah. Now then we get to Kyogre and Grata, and Kyogre would a lot of the time be running Scarf, and in order to escape the one move that it would be using with the Scarf, it would Dynamax. So let's say you're using Water Spout and you were using and then you wanted to use Thunder or Ice Beam, then you would have to Dynamax in order to use one of those moves if you were Scarfed. So now it doesn't really have that option, therefore it's more weak to things like Sucker Punch, things like Grassy Glide, things like Fake Out. But yeah. Does this thing get like Volt Switch? No, thank god. What other things does it get? Scald? Yeah. So, same thing with Groudon, I guess. Groudon would a lot of the time want to get Iron Head boosts, or Steel Spike boosts, and Quake boosts, and now it can't really do that. Precipice Blades is a big thing. Sometimes it would want to run Weakness Policy, a lot of times Citrus Berry, but yeah, I don't know. It gets nerfed because you can't really boost up your attack, your Spadef, and Defense. Also, Groudon can be burned because it's not primal and it's not fire type anymore. So people are like, oh shoot, Groudons can be burned in Series 8. Oh my god. People are freaking out. Yeah. Verte?
Yeah. To this point, I have nothing else to add. That pretty much covers everything, I think, so far.
Yeah. And Palkia, I wouldn't say it's nerfed, but it did like to use Dynamax a lot, and now I think it's even more weak to Freeze Dry, because I would say that maybe Lapras can OHKO a Palkia now. With a max special attack or something like that.
It's definitely not as much of a nerf as some of the other Pokemon, but you definitely have to be more careful with Palkia as the one that you choose to go with.
Yeah. I mean, it's good, but like, I don't know. Gets good coverage.
True.
Got a Veltal, and Veltal's an interesting case because it's kind of a better Moltres Galar, but it can run either physical or special. So weakness policy was often run with it, and then you can run Sucker Punch and Dark Pulse and Oblivion Wing. So that was nice. But now it's not as viable because, as we said, you're less bulky in general because of the lack of Dynamax and doubling your HP. But it also gets a buff because Sucker Punch is now really, really good against things like Calyrex Shadow, and etc. Yeah. Though you probably don't want to be running attack because of all the Intimidate spam. Between Intin and Lando and...
Yeah, Yveltal still tends to run special.
Yeah.
I think.
Just because Oblivion Wing is so good.
Go with Yveltal. Yeah.
Yeah.
In general, I don't think there's going to be much need for Yveltal this format anyway, though.
Yeah, because you could just use
Alright, oh, sorry.
Yeah, now you can go on your rant about Calyrex Shadow. That was bad.
Yeah, Calyrex Shadow. Okay, so, Calyrex Shadow, to start off, is Psychic Ghost. So it's going to be 4 times weak to dark moves, including Sucker Punch is going to be a big one, because since Calyrex can't Dynamax anymore, it's going to get OHKO'd by basically any stab Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
There's a couple specific mons that we picked out that we'll cover later that get a buff because of stab Sucker Punch being useful against Calyrex Shadow. But in addition to being OHKO'd by Sucker Punch, it also primarily uses spread moves like Expanding Force and Astral Barrage.
Yeah.
And with no Dynamax, spread moves in general see a rise in popularity, which in turn is going to increase the popularity of moves like Wide Guard that completely eliminate the effectiveness of Calyrex as a whole. Because you're going to be stuck with single targeting moves like Mud Shot you have there is a terrible, terrible move in general. But
Draining Kiss also terrible move.
Yeah, because nobody's going to be running Shadow Ball on their Calyrex Shadow. At least, not at first. Maybe the meta will adapt to people using single target Shadow Balls, but Shadow Ball, like if you're using Shadow Ball, at that point, like Calyrex Shadow is kind of a waste because he specializes in having moves like Astral Barrage.
Yeah, just use Spectre. Use a different restricted at that point.
Use a different restricted, exactly, right. So I don't think Calyrex Shadow is going to be very good at all this format. It'll probably still see some play, but definitely not in the way that it used to, and
Sting gets speed swap. What?
People are gonna have inherent coverage for it. So it's gonna be
support Cali Shadow.
Not.
Oh, God,
I don't think it's gonna be very good. Yeah, support Cali Shadow so it dodges Sucker Punch. Exactly.
All right, now we gotta talk about the few mons that kind of got buffed. So, number 1, we're gonna start with Lugia, and Lugia is super bulky, and what it would basically do is set up with Calm Mind and recover and Aeroblast everything to death. This is basically what you would run. You would run like Protect, Aeroblast, Recover, Calm Mind with like leftovers, and then recover and just Calm Mind until you get like +6, and then you Aeroblast everything to death. So the only thing that really was in Lugia's way is critical hits. So obviously Urshifu Dark and Dynamax moves, because Dynamax moves do a stupid amount of damage, so therefore they would be able to take out Lugia with a Dynamax move and the partner Pokemon's move. So now that Dynamax is out of the picture, multi-scale becomes really, really good, and you won't be able to OHKO or even maybe 2-hit KO Lugia, and therefore I think that it gets a really big buff and it'll be harder to eliminate. You have to respect it now.
For sure.
Next up we got Rayquaza, and Mewtwo also kind of falls into this category, but the reason why they're both very good is because they get a stupid amount of coverage. Like, it gets Air Slash, Ancient Power, Blizzard, it gets physical stuff, but you probably want to run special because of Intimidate, so there's that. Earth Power, Ice Beam, Draco Meteor, Air Slash, Sea, Energy Ball, what else we got? Fire Blast, Flamethrower, Focus Blast even. What the heck, why does it get Focus Blast? It's so weird. Hurricane, Hydro Pump, it gets like everything. It's actually ridiculous. Overheat.
It gets Icy Wind if you want to run speed control on
Yeah,
it.
it gets Icy Wind. That's actually really key, actually. Because since there's no Max Airstream or Max Strike, there's a lack of speed control in the meta now to fill with, let's say, Regieleki or Tailwind or Trick Room, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just that when it comes to restricted metas, the skill cap is way higher compared to other metas, and the games are much slower, even though you still have the 20-minute timer. Screw the timer, it's so annoying. But yeah, we might actually see games go to time.
One of the main reasons that we put Rayquaza in the buff category is because it's 4 times weak to ice.
Yeah.
Without Dynamax, it's significantly more likely to be able to survive ice moves, because obviously Max Hailstorm
could just destroy it.
Was a very strong ice attack, and
also
a large number of Dynamax mons had access.
Max Dragon too lowers the attack, and it's a very good max move, so a lot of things would carry it, like Dragapult per se, for example.
True.
So yeah, 95 speed also very good, but it's faster than most.
Yeah, decent speed.
Yeah. So Mewtwo we talked about.
Let's do Mewtwo next. Yeah. Let's do Mewtwo
Unnerve
next.
is also a really good ability, and since it's only Psychic type, we talked about this before. It's only Psychic type compared to Calyrex Shadow's Psychic Ghost, so it's only 2 times weak to Dark, so it's not as bad. So it might be like a replacement, quote unquote.
Right. With Calyrex Shadow being so terrible this format, it's gonna slowly fade out. Mewtwo was.
Also
Mewtwo suffered because of Calyrex Shadow's presence in the format.
Yeah,
also because it's very nice.
All of the psychics.
So without Calyrex Shadow there to counter Mewtwo, Mewtwo is going to be significantly more practical.
Yeah. Also got some pretty good support moves, but yeah, probably want to use its 154 special attack.
I think it. Yeah.
Also,
it's also super fast. Like, yeah. I think it's just going to be it's just better than Rayquaza basically.
So is
I think Mewtwo's.
Yeah, really one-time base too.
I think Mewtwo is actually a pretty decent option in this format.
All right, we're building a Mewtwo team after this.
all right, sounds good.
All right, next up we got Xerneas, and we think that Xerneas gets a buff because it would just get like one shot by Max Steel Spike, but that doesn't exist anymore. So even though Zacian thing, you can kind of play around that and then get a Geomancy up, and I think it could still be really good. Maybe with Dazzling Gleam, probably with Moonblast more often. And maybe
yeah, you're probably gonna want to go Moonblast to avoid Wildcard.
And then maybe people run like Thunderbolt. I don't remember. Does this thing get fire coverage? I don't remember. Fire. No, that would be too broken.
I don't think so.
That'd be
no,
way
it
too
doesn't.
broken.
Because
then it would be able to just melt through Steel types.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it gets.
Regardless, though, Xerneas has always been solid. Like. There's no reason to assume it's not going to still be solid now, especially with no Max Steel Spike.
True. Yeah, so Xerneas probably gets a boost, and we might see it rise in usage. Now we get to talk about the fun mons, and the mons that got buffed because there is no Dynamax. Now, first off, we're talking about Urshifu. Now, Urshifu is really disgusting in the fact that it gets Unseen Fist, which means that all contact moves hit through Protect. So that means Sucker Punch, Wicked Blow, and Close Combat, which are the 3 moves that it uses. and Iron Head and Poison Jab, but like usually you're just gonna run these 3. So yeah, since you're not able to protect, no. So let me start from the beginning. Dynamax allowed you to live hit from Urshifu. Now it also allowed you to guard from Urshifu with Max Guard. Now you can't do that, and because of all the high-powered mons that are running around, i.e. the restricteds, you're going to want to start running Protect, but with Urshifu, you simply can't. So it's very oppressive, and I think that Urshifu is going to rise in usage for sure.
Yeah,
both forms.
Significantly even.
Both
yeah,
forms.
Rapid Strike also. Just because we have Single Strike on screen, don't think that Rapid Strike is not also going to rise in usage. They're both definitely going to be significantly more usage now that Unseen Fist becomes exponentially more powerful without Max Guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Also, Max Airstream would destroy this thing. Max Steel Spike would also... I mean, Max Steel Spike doesn't really matter, but Max Airstream, Max Dragon for lowering attack, and Max Airstream is probably the main one that you would... Like, you would click into Urshifu. Yep. So, with that gone, Urshifu for sure gets a buff. And obviously, this is the main spread. I mean, I like putting in HP, because, yeah. But, whatever. Next up, we got Whimsicott.
Let's,
Yeah. We love Whimsicott on this channel. And it gets even better because it is the premier Prankster Tailwind user, because it's got super fast speed. So you don't even have to run max speed. You could probably run, like, just enough speed to outspeed Tornadus if you want to do that. Okay, also, with the Focus Sash, you can run Endeavor, you can run Trick Room, you can run Charm, you can run Encore, you can run... It gets Defog? I didn't even know that. That's cool.
Fake Tears, right?
Yeah, Fake Tears. Light Screen. I don't know why you run Light Screen on Whims, but okay. Stun Spore. I don't know if you want to do that. Switcheroo. Eject Button is always a thing. Taunt. U-turn. Lol. U-turn. Covet. No.
Plenty of options.
A lot of options. Grassy Glide. Don't use Grassy Glide. Helping Hand. Helping Hand.
Grassy Glide.
Grassy Glide. Grassy Glide team. And the server, you know that, right? They did teams, and somebody did Grassy Glide, and they used like Appleton and Whimsicott, because like all the mons had to have one singular move. So yeah. Anyway, Whimsicott, really good. Gets even better buff because you can't because Tailwind is more useful, and also you can just prankster everything except for dark types. So yeah. Yes.
Pretty solid overall.
Now we're gonna talk about Wide Guard. Now, Wide Guard, as we said, since a lot of the restricteds have spread moves are going to increase, and therefore people are going to want to counter that with Wide Guard. Now, this includes all the mons that get Wide Guard, so Mienshao, Stakataka, Celesteela, Hitmontop. What else gets Wide Guard? Bunch of other mons. Whatever. But I think Mienshao is the best one because it gets Inner Focus, so no Intimidate, no Fake Out. You can run it with Focus Sash. It gets Fake Out itself, it gets Wide Guard, it gets Close Chain, it gets Close Combat, and if you're running a Sash, you're going to run a spread like this, and this pretty much always OHKOs Incineroar, so that's good to know. Also gets Bulk Up, I don't see why you would run that. Detect, obviously. It gets Knockoff, which is really good for things like Clefairy, which will probably rise in usage. Things like maybe Dusclops. If Calyrex Shadow goes out of the picture and Dusclops becomes a lot more viable, even though Urshifu is still a thing. What else?
Yeah.
Oh, Taunt and
speaking
U-turn.
Speaking of, as the meta starts to adapt to, like we said, Calyrex Shadow phasing out and Urshifu being super significant, people are going to realize that Protect serves much less purpose than it normally would because of Urshifu.
Yeah.
And once Protect starts to become significantly less usage, Urshifu's Unseen Fist isn't as necessary on a team.
Right.
So something like Mienshao could serve the purpose of Urshifu if you don't have to worry about Protect, because it gets some better moves like Fake Out, Wide Guard, etc.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how the meta adapts with different options like this.
True. I also think that U-turn will be a great option. Switching in and out, since these games are so slow, I think if you're fast, then having an option to switch out with Volt Switch or U-turn is actually really good, because I think that things like Gothitelle will rise in usage because sometimes the restricted metagames are very matchup dependent. So if you get stuck with a Gothitelle and a Zacian and you don't want to face the Zacian, you could just U-turn out and get a good switch in. I think that might be a factor in the beginning of the metagame. Having U-turn and Volt Switch is really nice. Now, since Urshifu is everywhere, what kind of counters Urshifu? Fairy types. So I think Togekiss with either Dazzling Gleam or Air Slash can pretty much always bring Urshifu down to at least 60% health. If not, it's Sash. So, and having Follow Me is always good. Extreme Speed, or like you could get Endeavored by Prankster Whimsicott and then Extreme Speeded to pick off Pokemon each turn. It's really hilarious.
Togekiss also gets very good single target coverage.
Yeah.
So that's also always an option to make it very versatile. Meant to adjust as the format adjusts. You can keep your Togekiss, just mess around with its moves a little bit.
Yeah, it gets a lot of good coverage. Dazzling Gleam, Extrasensory, Fire Blast, Flamethrower, Grass Knot, Heat Wave, Psychic, Psyshocks, Shadow Ball, Stored Power. I run Stored Power, but whatever. Draining Kiss, Fairy Wind, Future Sight, Hyper Beam, Mud Slap. Damn, Mud Slap.
Mystical Fire is actually decent.
Oh yeah, Mystical Fire.
In specific matchups, yeah.
Yes, Mystical Fire is really good. Yeah. But yeah, you can either run Super Luck or Serene Grace. If you're running like support Togekiss, you want to run Super Luck. If you're running like offensive, probably want to run Serene Grace. I don't know, it depends. And obviously you can add the scope lines like you usually do to get that 50% crit rate for all of your moves. But yeah, now we get to Alecki. So as we said, since Max Airstream is no longer a thing and neither is Max Strike, you're gonna have to rely more on your Pokemon themselves and their moves for speed control. So Alecki, being super duper fast, provides that very, very consistently with Electro Web. Also has screens, which are more useful because since Dynamax is out of the picture, the super powerful moves no longer exist, and therefore screens are more useful, so you can last longer, right? Because your mons aren't taking as much of these heavy, big moves that are base 140, 150 power. They're only taking like 80 power, 90 power, if that. So screens actually do a lot more for you with, let's say, like Clay, right? Also, Alecki just being fast in general kind of gets a nerf from not being able to Dynamax, because Max Alecki is really, really strong. But if you get it set up right, Alecki can still do a stupid amount of damage with Magnet or Life Orb.
I think the benefits will much outweigh the negatives of it not being able to Dynamax.
Yeah. Because it's
also
being able
very
to
good
Dynamax.
against Togekiss, which we just said is probably in usage.
Yeah.
We talked about before how an Alecki Urshifu lead might be super strong in specific matchups.
Right, because Urshifu is in that weird speed tier where it's like 97, so it's not 100. But if you use Electro Web and then Urshifu will be faster, and then it could just like Wicked Blow or Sucker Punch or whatever, close combat to KO something. If you're running like even Banded, that'd be interesting. See how much a Banded does to like Kyogre or something like that. Alright, next up we got Sucker Punch Mom, and that is Cinderace. Now Cinderace kind of got a nerf because it can't Dynamax, you can't use Bounce Max Airstream, but still think it's really good because Greninja is also really disgusting with Protean ability, same, which changes your type. But Pyro Ball, High Jump Kick, Sucker Punch, and U-Turn, all great moves to have. Even Echo you could use. Counter Court Change. I don't know why I use Court Change, but whatever.
The emphasis on Sucker Punch, of course, being that it OHKOs Calyrex Shadow, and also probably does decent chunk to Calyrex Ice also, and Mewtwo if Mewtwo becomes popular.
Yeah, all the psychics.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it also obviously becomes your type, and then therefore you get stab. So, yeah. Also,
yeah. Due to its loss of G-Max, we talked about how it's probably going to become more of like a secondary attacker. Like you're probably going to have your Restricted be your main attacker, and then have Cinderace be sort of like a support attacker, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like in the back.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
And also because it's so fast, you don't need to invest like all in speed. You can kind of invest a little bit in speed, just to outspeed like the 90 base Restricteds, and then you can invest in some bulk. And then...
especially if you have a Tailwind Mon.
It's true. Also gets Iron Head, so having that Steel type in your back pocket is always nice, because Steel resists a lot of things. So, yeah. Alright, next up we got Dragapult. And Dragapult with just being the number one draft Pokemon, because it's so versatile, you can run either Infiltrator, Clear Body, or Curse Body. Infiltrator might become interesting because it goes through Reflect and Light Screen, but I think that the support set will actually be really, really good since Dragapult is so fast. You don't have to invest so much in speed, and you can invest it like all in bulk, and then go like Will-O-Wisp, Thunder Wave. You can go Light Screen and Reflect. It gets both of them. Psychic Fangs will be interesting because if the screens rises in usage, you might want to actually run this to break them. And then Breaking Swipe has the 100% chance to lowers your foe's attack by 1, both mons. So
right, it's the physical version of Snarl, which is of course good against most teams unless they have Wide Guard, but you run Will-O-Wisp in that case too. So
right. I mean, it's also Dragapult also got nerfed because it can't Dynamax. It had the ability to snowball with Max Phantasm, lowering defense, and therefore every time you're doing more and more damage. And same thing with Airstream. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It could still
ultimately,
be good.
the support version of Dragapult gets massively buffed, I think.
Yeah, support Dragapult is for sure massively buffed. Because I don't know, I don't think you even need much speed to outspeed base 90s. And then you could just invest
you definitely don't.
Everything in bulk, and then it's okay bulk. 88, 75, 75 is not bad. And having Dragon Ghost type, it's pretty good typing. I don't know. Resists a lot of stuff. But yeah. Now, on the topic of less speed control, we have Dracovish and Dragozolt. Now, you can either run Sandrush or you can run the Scarf variant. But I think that since there is less speed control overall, then Fish's Rent will be doing a stupid amount of damage to a lot of things if you outspeed them. So
definitely,
yeah, having that slower metagame and knowing how to position Dracovish and Dracozolt right will allow you to take KOs, I think, a little bit easier. So therefore, we think that it's considered a buff. Also gets Psychic Fangs, notably. Because of Strong Jaw. So yeah, that is the thing. I don't think Dracozolt doesn't get Psychic Fangs, but yeah, Rock Slide and Super Fang also on Dracofish. I think that's Super Fang is underused and could be used a lot more. You get I don't know, Kyogre down to half health, and Regieleki can Electro Web and take it out. Boom, boom, bam. That's it. Kyogre's dead. But yeah. And then last but not least, we got another Sucker Punch Bond, but also more versatility and Grimmsnarl. And same thing like we said with the Lecky with the screens. It just gives you more and more bulk. And also Spirit Break and Fake Out. Fake Out is going to be really, really useful because a lot of things can't protect or just won't have protect because they feel like people feel like it's futile to have protect because there's Shifus everywhere. As we said before.
Exactly.
But yeah. But with screens, I think since Grimmsnarl is 4 times resists dark, so for sure walls are, and then you can Spirit Break it. But also it has a lot of great support moves like Fake Tears, like Thunder Wave, like Trick, like Burning Jealousy. I don't know why you run Burning Jealousy, but whatever. Like Taunt. What else we got?
Thunder Wave.
Ladder, Thunder Wave, I said that. Scary Face. Yeah, that's about it. But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you can run like Trick, Lagging Tail, or Full Incense, whatever the heck you want. It does the same thing. So future me here, and I actually forgot to talk about a lot of the mons that got nerfed because there is no Dynamax. So I'm just going to talk about a few of them right here. Number 1 mon that got nerfed for sure is Colossal, because Colossal mainly was used simply because of the Steam Engine weakness policy strat with Dynamax. Now, without Dynamax, it's not as good because you don't get the Volcalith, which does, I don't know, 1/4 of your opponent's full HP each turn, and it doesn't really have any good moves other than maybe Heat Wave. Like, you have Ancient Power, which is your best rock type move. You're not going to use Meteor Beam because it takes 2 turns. You have Solar Beam, and then the other move that you would potentially use is Earth Power. But why would you use something super duper frail? I mean, if you look at Colossal's base stats, they're actually not bad, but since it's 4 times weak to ground and water, you're not going to use it, and I think that Colossal is no longer going to be used just because it's so frail. Next up, we got Venusaur, and since Venusaur can't G-Max anymore, you don't have that 50-50 where does it Sleep Powder, does it G-Max? So yeah, it just makes Venusaur weaker overall and has less variability because of that. Same thing with Kingdra. Does it go for Hydro Pump or Hurricane or Draco Meteor, or does it max and go for a Max Airstream or Max Wormwind or Max Water, whatever, I don't know, forgot what it's called. Anyway, also what was good about Kingdra is that it could set up its own rain, and now it can no longer do that, and you have to rely on things like Pelipper and Politoed, which, and Kyogre, I guess, but yeah, so Kingdra for sure got nerfed in that respect. Then we got Metagross and Glacier, which kind of fall into the same category in that they used weakness policy, and they wanted to bulk up and make themselves kind of unkillable. But yeah, you can no longer do that as effectively, and you can't get Steel Spike or Quake boosts anymore, so that for sure nerfs them. Though I think if you're going to use if you're going to use Metagross, I think Bullet Punch might rise in usage and go with like a super bulky set and maybe weakness policy and then Bullet Punch. I think that could be a very good option actually. And last but not least, we got Lapras. Lapras is really only good because of its G-Max form and getting that 8 turns of screens if you use Light Clay with its max resonance. And now that it doesn't have that anymore, I doubt it's going to be used. It is a good ice type. It is kind of bulky. It doesn't have that great of a special attack stat, but if you run like max special attack and maybe Life Orb, or you could run weakness policy with Comfey, I guess it could still be doing damage, but not as good of a Pokemon overall. So yeah. So those are our thoughts on the Series 10 metagame, and yeah, let us know in the comments below what you think is going to happen, because this is just on paper, I guess, what we think is going to happen, but we have no idea what's actually going to happen, so yeah.
Yeah, I think overall Series 10 is going to be it's going to require a higher skill cap.
Yeah, for sure. Same thing as Series 8.
For VGC players.
I think it's going to be even harder than Series 8, honestly, because Dynamax is like...
8, yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, 10-year-old kid is like, make my bunny go big and destroy everything. No, you actually need to think about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Say bye.
See ya.
Peace.